This video is a quick overview of Firebase. As you can see here, I'm logged in at the console and I've created a number of projects. For the purposes of this video, we will be using the COGS project. And when you go in, you can see there that there are a number of features within this project. You have authentication, you have database, storage, and so on. What we're going to be taking a look at is authentication and database. So I'm going to go ahead and select authentication here. And as you can see there, I've created a simple user. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you here the folder that I have. And I'm going to go ahead and load the login.html file. Let me go ahead and open up a new tab. And on top of that new tab, I'm going to put that in there. And as you can see there, I have a couple of options. And because I'm logged in right now, I have the log out button. And we'll go through the code in a second. I just want to go ahead and show you this first. I'm going to go ahead and create another user. I'll call this one John at mit.edu. And I'm going to give him the password of, let's say, blank. Doesn't really matter for demo purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and sign him up. And let's go ahead and see if that went through. Okay, I see the problem. My password was too short. I'll make here, I'll say long blank so that it doesn't complain. I'm going to go ahead and sign up. And you can see there that now that went through. Now, if we go back to Firebase and we reload the page, let me go ahead and move to a different tab and then come back. You can see there that we now have John. All of the logic for storing, creating, versioning, all of that is being handled by database. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the code. And as you can see here, I have a different project opened up. So let me go ahead and open up the one for login. And I'm going to go ahead and show you here the HTML side. And as you can see, it's quite simple. It simply lists here a number of fields, the ones you saw on the screen. So there's email, password, login, sign up, and log out. I'm also including the Firebase library. That's simply a one-line thing. And then I have the logic in a file called login.js. So let's go ahead and load that one up into the editor. I've included this line here simply so that I can use versions or I can use features from the latest release of the language without the editor complaining. And as you can see, this part here, lines 5 through 14, are simply part of what you do in every single Firebase application. If we go back and we select COGS and we look at this, what pops up here, this is how you add Firebase for a project into your JavaScript. So you can see here, add Firebase to your web app. So let's go back to the editor. That's that part. The second part here, the second block, is simply referencing those elements. So the email, password, login, and so on. And then what you have after that are features or listeners for each of those buttons or state changes. So you can see here, add login. We're listening to the click on the login button, right? You can see it here, and it's right there again. Once we do that, we create an instance, or we get a handle on the author interface of Firebase. And then we simply sign in with email and password. Now, if instead of logging in, we're doing a sign up, we do something similar, except we use a different function in the API. This one is create user with email and password. And we can do a log out as well. And this last part is simply handling the buttons that we're showing on the page based on what the state of the user is. It's the user logged in or not. And so as you can see, there's a pretty easy way to add authentication. Now, if we go back to the editor, if we wanted to say change the method that we were using for authentication. In this case, as you can see here, I have email and password enabled. But if we wanted to move to, I'm not sure what phone is, but if we wanted to move to Google, or if we wanted to move to Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, most likely we would use GitHub, just so that students don't have to have a password for the plugin and another one for COGS. But you can see here that we can vary that quite easily. So let's go ahead and go back to the code. And I want to show you then, in addition to the login, I want to show you a read and a write. So I'm going to go ahead and load the page for this. And for some reason, I am getting something strange here. Let's go ahead and now open that up in the editor. And as you can see here, we have a very simple page. We're again using the Firebase library. Then we have a message that we want to write to the database, in this case, the Firebase database. We have a button for write, we have a button for read, and we have a field, a div field for the status. And again, the logic is being handled on the JS file. So let's go ahead and open that up. You can see here, the first part of that is the same as before. Then we get a handle on the database, in this case, the database interface for Firebase. We then get a handle on the elements, just as we did before. And we have two events that we're listening to. The first one is the write, and so we get a handle on an object. This is not a relational database. This is a NoSQL database, and the structure of it is that of JSON. So the same thing that you use within JavaScript is the structure that you will have in storage. And so as you can see here, we have a reference to an object that we're calling messages. Then, in fact, I'm not using this anymore, but the very first time, I take it back, I am using it, as you can see there. I simply add an ID, and the ID is just a timestamp. This is not real ID. If you would, if you write this for scale, you would use GWIDs, but it's just a simple way to add an ID. And so this writes into the database using the set method. Now we do the opposite when we read. We get a handle on that object, as you can see there. Then we pull the messages once, as you can see there. And what we have here is a promise, and we're handling the promise. And basically, we just get a list of what those messages are, and we then write them to the page. So if we take a look now at the page, we can go ahead and make this bigger so you can see. We can write here, we will say good afternoon. Good afternoon. Well, actually, let me go ahead and show you what's in the database before I do that. If we go ahead and read, you can see there that I've written before good morning, good hello world, and good night. And I'll write now good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and write. And you can see there that I'm giving myself a message. And if I read it, I can now read good afternoon back as well. Now, if we go into the COGS database and we take a look at the messages here, you can see here that we have 4 of them. The latest one is good afternoon, we have then good night, and we have hello world. So as you can see, this is a very agile, very fast way of creating an application and getting going right away. So I'll go ahead and share this video with you and the code. Okay, goodbye.